Daniel, you got a video for people. What's going on?
Yeah, I thought because today is, as all days seem to be, shitty, I wanted to bring a little piece of inspiration. So yesterday we had a video of Cornel West on CNN talking truth to power as he always does in the poetic way that he always does. And Anderson Cooper taking what he says and like making a, oh yeah, Trump is pretty bad, isn't he? Which is the exact opposite of the argument he was making. Cornel West was back on MSN, and we're going to play a little snippet of that right about now.
In the streets is the kind of desperation that comes with easily 50 million of our American citizens unemployed, north of 100,000 of our fellow Americans dead in a pandemic that happens to be slicing, way over-indexing through communities of color and poverty. Am I correct in saying that some of the destruction we're seeing and some of the looting we're seeing right up to and including tonight
always mention the looting,
is the intersection
That's your job.
of anger and opportunity?
On the intersection of anger and massive neglect, massive poverty, dilapidated housing, decrepit school systems, not enough jobs with a living wage, no access to health care, and the collapse of family, the collapse of community, the collapse of schools. And so you get these precious individuals, and I love my brothers and sisters in the street, even when they're wrong, but I love them enough to correct them. Because gangsters come in all forms. I got a lot of gangster in me. But the challenge is the gangsterism at the top. It's been sucking so much of the wealth owing to the greed, so much of the power owing to its connection to the greed. No democracy can survive when its public life, its public goods are so privatized and militarized and individualized. John Dewey taught us that, one of our great philosophers. We've got to look at the best of our past in this moment and see whether we can mobilize it for these new circumstances. If we can, we'll make it out like Lincoln, like FDR, like LBJ. But if we don't make it out, then we just become another empire that had high democratic possibilities, that understood itself as the great city on the hill, the grand exemplar of liberty, but never came to terms with your slavery, never came to terms with your Jim Crow, never came to terms with your working class that was unable to gain access to jobs with a living wage, never came to terms with the humanity of the vast majority of humankind, women, never came to terms with the rich humanity of our precious trans and gay and lesbian brothers and sisters, never came to terms with the new immigrants. Now, I do believe, we've got a whole lot of magnificent human beings in this country. The problem is that it's hard for that to spill over given the rigidity of our structures. And thank God that those in the street, especially during the day, come from all colors, all genders, all sexual orientations. So the public lynching of a precious black brother, our dear brother George, sparks something deep in the souls of every color, every gender in this nation to hit the street. That's why I thank God they're in the street. But we do have to acknowledge the degree to which we got to keep track of the best of who we are and render accountable everybody at the highest level as well as those on the ground.
So right there, let's pause. Okay. So as always, Cornel West nails it, says everything in such an eloquent way that none of us can really touch or improve on what he says. He always says the right thing. But I really want to point out something very specific that this channel is based around as well. That when we talk to people that are, every now and then we have someone that's coming in that's like, hey, maybe we want to do it. One of the first things I tell people is, we don't talk about social justice. We talk about economics, which affects social justice way more than social justice speak ever could. It's about the money and the power. It always has been, and it always will be. You have people that are split among race because it's easier if people are divided amongst each other. They won't unite together under one class to look up at the people that are stealing their money and say, you're stealing my money, because they're too busy fighting each other. It's easy to keep men and women separate and fighting each other, because if they were together and unified, they would look up and say, why are you stealing my money? Why are you stealing my power? And that goes on through everything with sexual orientation, everything. Every wedge issue is, by definition, a wedge between people. Why are we focusing so much on abortion? Is it a thing that's already been codified and moved on? Is it something that the churches agreed with after it was put into law by the Supreme Court? Yeah. What did it take? It took a political action afterwards of people going, hey, if we get people to fight over this, they'll fight over this and not other things, which is why we always hear the same thing between Democrats and Republicans. It's gun rights, it's abortion, it's a few other issues, but what never comes up between either party is Medicare for all, Green New Deal, living wage, federal jobs guarantee, UBI, all those other things. And that's what Cornel brought up at the beginning that is so important, that everything we're dealing with, that if, like, imagine this as just a single change that was made, an economic change. If every single person that got arrested by the police had a paid lawyer with fees, with funding and time matched to the prosecutor of the city, that would radically change everything. Because then if you arrested anyone, there'd actually be a trial and not what we have right now, which is like 95% plea deal. Everything fundamentally changes with economics. Talking about that's the other thing that we're talking about before. That was on the Hill that it really struck me, because they were so right that you have Citibank, you have all the big banks that are supporting these movements, saying, "Go at it! I love Black Lives Matter. We'll pay for your thing." The second that Black Lives Matter starts saying, "Hey, why isn't everyone being paid a minimum wage?" those people will vanish and disappear. The real fight that this represents, as he's put it, is everyone's unemployed. Black unemployment right now, 50%. 50%. That's similar to Palestine, where they have like nothing because everything's been blown up. You have Americans with our ally, like oh, let's get the Israelis that treat the Palestinians the way they are. It's economic and it's power. It's an incentive structure. It's very straightforward, and it's obfuscated by continuing to go, look at this separation. The separation is real, but it is a branch on a tree, economics being the root. We must always focus on the trunk and the root, which is the economics and the power, and Cornel West cracks that right open.
So it's hard to follow up with all that because
yeah, I know. I was like, wow, you said it. That's right.
So I think it's important that we need to remember that the only way the system, the neoliberal system, is going to continue on is if we silently bow our heads, listen to the fake platitudes from the political class. We're seeing Obama right now speaking live. And
he's going to be
I know exactly what he's going to say. Yeah. But the thing is, he shouldn't be the guy speaking, though. It really should be, in theory, and I hate saying this, in theory, it should be Biden, not Obama. It should be Biden speaking about this. But the thing is, Biden is so degenerate at this point. Let's say he actually somehow wins this election. Let's say he somehow beats Trump. Do you think anything's going to go back to normal? No, the liberals are probably going to go out to brunch. Everyone's going to be happy that Trump's gone, but the problem will still remain. So if we want to win, if we want to change, the protests got to continue on. There must be a national shutdown, a national strike, and, we got to expose the underbelly that is the corruption in neoliberal America. Kira, what's the final word?
Yeah, and what I love that Cornel West points out in that video, and you guys, just a little behind the scenes, I actually didn't hear any of that video when they play it because I don't hear the videos. So this is from me watching it a little bit ago, so I don't actually know if this part got played. But what he points out in the video is that there is an abundance of resources. There is an abundance of money in this country that we have an abundance. And pointing to what Daniel was saying about economics and how that is the central issue. If we have an abundance, yet the majority of the people, or at least half of the people, are feeling like they have less than they need to survive, that's a broken system. That's what we're living in now, is a completely broken system. So definitely not going back to normal. When we go back to normal, we go back to the same system that got us here, and that got us Trump. And And that's really where I come from when I look at the upcoming election. Do I think Trump is dangerous? Yeah, I'm not an idiot, right? I can see, I'm not blind. I also know that if and when Biden gets into office, that's likely 8 more years of going back to normal, and then only to get another Republican in office if you look at how history plays out.
Yep.
So the question, like, I don't get upset with anybody who's voting for Biden, right? I'm not going to vote or shame someone. I get the fear around Trump. What I'm pointing to is that we can go with another 4 years of being really vigilant, being on our toes, defending the Constitution, pushing back against Trump, and likely having a lot of liberals back us up because they're all frightened of him. Or we could go to Biden and have everybody just fall asleep again. I've been an organizer for a long time. The moment Trump got into office, all of my organizations flooded with people because people started waking up. And so therein lies my election choices. And I think that Cornel West is right. We have an abundance of resources, and we should be clear on that.
Okay. Yeah, so it's something I was talking about earlier before we started the show, that the difference effectively, and this is why I say that the difference between Trump and Biden is really irrelevant. Trump is like, let me get all my white people together while we run off this cliff. Whereas Democrats are like, let me get all these colored people and some white people together while we also run off a cliff. Yeah. The distinction, the broad strokes, the strategic long-term between Trump and Biden is irrelevant because neither of them will ever address the economic issue. It's just fighting over these like race or like is Biden going to be better on race than Trump? Yeah, but again, does it matter in the big picture? No.
I don't think so at all. And not to mention, too, to the diehard Biden supporters, because I know that somebody was supposed to debate you, Daniel, and they never did. Hey, seriously, debate us about Biden on policy, because I'm very curious to have this wonderful conversation. Trump, he'll shoot you no matter what. He'll shoot someone on Fifth Avenue. Biden, hey, just shoot him in the leg. They'll be fine.